Do not hit me with a soft story today, because what is hanging around the Chargers right now feels like real decisions coming. We've got a first-round debate that hits the future of the pass rush, a receiver with real exit vibes, a direct Mike McDaniel connection to a possible fix for Herbert's protection, and a major rumor that, if it gets real, changes the ceiling of this offense. This is not some quiet offseason. This is a board that is actually moving in Los Angeles. So hit that like button and stay with me. Now we get to the part that really splits the fan base, because using pick 22 on Cashius Howell is not about draft hype. It is about need. Odafe Owe's exit left this edge group in an awkward spot. Khalil Mack still commands respect. He still changes snaps. He still forces offenses to think twice, but he is 35. And Tuli Tuipulotu, as intriguing as he is heading into the final year of his contract. Anybody looking at that and acting calm is fooling themselves. That is exactly why Howell is getting real traction in this conversation. His rise was not some random flash, it was real growth. He went from 0 sacks in 2021 to 2.0 in 2022, then jumped to 9.5 in 2023, had 4.0 in his first year at Texas A&M, and then exploded for 11.5 in 2025. That is not the profile of a guy drifting. That is a pass rusher who kept finding snaps, finding confidence, finding timing, and turning into a serious problem for offenses. And this is where I am willing to fight on it. Some people are going to look at the late breakout and try to sell fear. I see it differently. Not every defender arrives on the same timeline. Some guys need context, some need snaps, some need a bigger role. When Howell got that chance, he answered, and he answered in a big way. That matters. Now let's not pretend he walks into the NFL ready to carry the room in month 1. Maybe his start takes some adjustment. Maybe the technique still needs real work. But for once, the Chargers are actually in position to handle that the right way. Let the kid learn behind Mac. Speed up the development without dumping the whole burden on him. Build the future without exposing the present. If Los Angeles believes that leap is real and sustainable, then pick 22 stops looking bold and starts looking smart. Because impact edge rushers do not fall out of the sky, and waiting until the problem blows up would be flat out stupid. And the second story today has that uncomfortable smell to it, because when a player's name starts floating in trade chatter before the draft, it is almost never random. Quentin Johnston is back in that kind of noise, and what makes it louder is the context. Mike McDaniel is now running this offense. Ladd McConkey feels like a clear centerpiece. Trey Harris already represents major investment, and suddenly Johnston's spot does not feel nearly as secure as people once assumed when he was taken in the first round. The most interesting part here is not comparing Johnston to Dontavian Wicks. It is the connection between the signals. Jeremy Fowler mentioned both names in trade conversations, and Wicks has already been moved in a real deal. Once one name from that circle comes off the board, the other one naturally gets louder. And then the question changes. Are the Chargers just listening, or are they already looking at Johnston as a piece they can use to create flexibility in a draft where they only have a few picks? Because let's talk about this like people who actually watch this team. Johnston improved in some areas. He had flashes. He showed there is still talent there. But 3 seasons in, the conversation keeps running into the same wall. Route tree, consistency drops, and whether he truly fits inside an offense that has to be precise if it wants to unlock the best version of Herbert. And once the 5th-year option conversation shows up with a big number attached to it, the math gets even uglier. This is not just about patience. It is about cost, direction, and fit. Joe Ortiz likes draft flexibility. He likes room to move up, move down, and stitch deals together while the board is flying. If Johnston helps unlock that kind of movement, even without a great return, then the idea starts making a lot of sense strategically. And honestly, that would not be admitting failure. That would be stopping the habit of forcing a promise to work just because it once cost you a premium pick. That is the strongest part of this story. If this noise gets louder during the draft, nobody should act shocked. Los Angeles may be getting ready to turn frustration into a tool. Now the conversation changes completely, because this is not just some interesting name popping up in trade talk. This is the biggest obsession this franchise should have right now. Stop making Justin Herbert survive and start letting him control games. That is why the possibility of Aaron Brewer landing on the radar hits so hard for anybody following the Chargers closely. Mike McDaniel knows this player well, knows what he brings in space, knows how a profile like this can speed up an offense, and sees value where other people just see a guy playing out of position. Brewer started every game for the Dolphins at center last year, but this conversation goes beyond the label on the depth chart. What stands out is the versatility he showed inside McDaniel's system. If the coach already knows how to get the best out of him, that matters a lot when you look at a Chargers offensive line that still has too many questions on the inside. Tyler Biadasz is here, and yes, he helps, but he does not fix everything by himself. And Zion Johnson's departure left a hole that nobody serious should treat like a minor detail. What makes Brewer so tempting is the immediate fit with the kind of identity this offense could build. He helps the run game. He works well in space. He fits a more dynamic structure. And for a quarterback like Herbert, he also brings legit pass protection with a 71.2 pass blocking grade. That is not nothing when the goal is to give this offense rhythm and give your franchise quarterback some peace inside the pocket. But this is also where the fan base has to think clearly without losing the passion. Does it make sense technically? Yes. Does it make sense tactically? Absolutely. But does it make sense financially and strategically for where the Chargers are right now? That is where things get tricky. Los Angeles already spent money on Biadasz. This front office is not known for burning draft capital for fun. And there is still a strong belief that the team could address guard in the draft, including mock projections pointing to names like Vega Ioane. If Miami wants a high pick to move Brewer, the whole equation changes immediately. That is why this story is both frustrating and tempting. Brewer looks like a solution. He knows the system. He could raise the floor of this offensive line the second he walks in. But the Chargers cannot act like every good idea deserves a blank check. If there is a realistic path, I totally get the interest. But if Miami sets the price too high, then this stops being smart and starts becoming an expensive luxury for a team that still has a lot to get right with only 5 bullets in this draft. And then we get to the story that instantly fires up the imagination of the fan base. Because when A.J. Brown gets tied to the Chargers, the conversation jumps from adjustment to pure impact. The Eagles' move involving Dontavian Wicks made this noise louder, and for a simple reason. When a team starts reshuffling its receiver room, people immediately start looking for the next domino. And if that next domino is Brown, Los Angeles needs to at least be in the room. The Chargers have resisted the idea of giving up major picks for a proven veteran for a while now. It almost happened with DK Metcalf before. It did not get done. And since then, the team has looked more comfortable trying to find its next explosive receiver through the draft. But there is a point where being careful starts looking stubborn. You have Justin Herbert in his prime. You have Ladd McConkey growing into an electric weapon. And you still do not have that receiver who steps on the field and immediately changes how the secondary lines up. A.J. Brown is that kind of presence. And this is not even about taking a cheap shot at Quentin Johnston, because reality already speaks for itself. Johnston may have bounced back a bit. He may still give people some hope. But Brown operates on a different level of influence. More power, more control, more big game experience, more ability to decide tight games. If he lands in this offense, the entire conversation around the Chargers' offensive ceiling changes instantly. That is not hype. That is just an obvious read on elite talent. The problem, of course, is the price. Los Angeles has not built a recent reputation for throwing picks around for established stars, and this kind of deal takes front office courage and total conviction about where the roster stands. But I am going to say this as a fan who is tired of watching Herbert carry hope on his back without a full arsenal around him. Eventually, this franchise has to decide whether it just wants to build nicely or whether it wants to scare the AFC for real. So I want to know exactly where this fan base stands on it. If A.J. Brown really starts moving in the market, are you going all in? Or are you still defending the draft as the right path? I want that temperature in the comments because this debate says a lot about the kind of Chargers team we want to see come to life. At the end of the day, today's picture is aggressive in exactly the way this franchise needs to be. There is a real succession conversation at edge with Cashius Howell. There is Quentin Johnston hovering around a possible exit. There is Aaron Brewer showing up as a tempting fix to protect Herbert. And there is A.J. Brown as the kind of name that would completely change the feel of this offense. None of that looks like a team sitting still. It looks like an organization that knows this moment calls for impact, not excuses. If you follow Los Angeles every single day, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell because this off-season is not whispering. It is calling the Chargers into a massive decision.